I can tell you with certainty that Mahendra Singh Dhoni has played his last game for India, and that was the World Cup semi-final.
Hello and welcome to the third episode of All Things Cricket by the 12th Man. I am your host Ujjwal Sachdeva, and it is an absolute pleasure to call myself the host in the presence of one of India's most dignified sports hosts, none other than Mr. Vikrant Gupta. He has been the sports executive editor for TV Today Network for multiple years now and has played for the Punjab team in the Ranji Trophy as well. Being a player and a sports editor himself, it is an absolute honor to have you. Welcome, Mr. Vikrant, sir.
Thank you, Ujjwal. It's indeed a pleasure, and good luck to your channel. I hope this turns out to be a good interview between the two of us.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, we'll do this in three segments. First, we'll just quickly take your opinions on sports journalism, and then we'll take quick opinions on Indian cricket and a very quick rapid fire segment to end with. So, I'll start with the first segment. Yeah. So, it's about sports journalism. My first question to you being, sir, something I also personally want to ask you. Being a sports journalist and you've been renowned in this field, you've talked to multiple people for so many years. So your two bit on budding sports journalists and your single piece of advice, say, to somebody who wants to be a sports commentator or sports journalist.
Well, I think the first and the foremost thing is to have that passion. Like you said, I've played a bit of cricket. That doesn't necessarily mean that having played the game will make me a better sports journalist, but it does help you. It does help you because you know the nuances of the game. Secondly, not too many people know that before I became a journalist, I mean, many years before I became a journalist, when I was a youngster, a cricket fan, I used to play, I would still read newspapers. I would read sports magazines. So I wasn't aware then that I'll become a sports journalist. Maybe subconsciously, I was being prepared for the role that I am in. You've got to read a lot. You've got to read a lot. You also need to be in tune with the pulse of the people. You should also know what the people want to read or they want to watch. I was lucky, Ujjwal, that I was at the right place at the right time. TV Today Network, again, Aaj Tak and India Today are the famous brands, was expanding at that time. They'd just become a 24-hour news channel. And I used to work with the Indian Express. I started off with the Indian Express newspaper. And 6 years I was there. I did write a lot. Mr. Rishabh Gupta was the editor-in-chief. He encouraged me a lot. He was also a cricket fan, incidentally. But when I joined Aaj Tak, from the English segment to Hindi segment was tricky at that time. And from a newspaper to television was also tricky. Because 6 years in a newspaper teaches you to be an independent person. The moment I joined television, I realized you're not independent anymore because you're also dependent on the camera person. So let's say hypothetically, I was in South Africa for the World Cup immediately after I joined television. And this was 2003. And I had my camera person with me. So it wasn't just about me. What time do I wake up? What is it that I'm thinking? What is it that my day is going to pan out? I had to tell everything to him overnight. This is the time. We need to wake up at this time. We leave at this time. This is what I'm thinking of doing. And this is how you will shoot. So it's like a team effort. But the first 1 year was difficult. After that, gradually, I got a feel of it. I remember I wanted to go back to newspaper. Initially, I wanted to go back to newspaper. I could not adjust to TV. But there were a few friends who told me, "Thodi der ruk jao." Once this kicks in, and once you get a hang of television, you would never want to go back. And I'm lucky in the sense that I've been in a group which had deep pockets. They were never reluctant to spend money on the guests, on the coverage, on this, on that. And Adanpuri's big formula has always been feet on the ground. So it wasn't just sitting in the office, in the studios and blabbering. He wanted people to go out in the field and report. And I covered a lot. I went around the world with the Indian team. That exposures really helped me. So for any budding sports journalist, A, you need to have that passion. And B, just work on your skill, which is read, read, and read.
Right. Work on your skill. Okay, sir. My second question is a little bit pertinent to your, I heard your recent TED talk, and I was hearing how you explained how after the nation turned against Saurav Ganguly, you had a conversation with him. So my question to you being that it usually happens that cricketers of fame suddenly have the media turn against them, suddenly have people put tweets against them. So in that case, how much does it affect the psyche of a cricketer? How much does it affect the player?
A lot. Unlike a journalist or a doctor or a painter or even an actor, a top class sports person has a shelf life.
Yeah.
Like Sachin Tendulkar played for 24 years, which is very rare. We will not find that happening too often now. Maybe the career span could be 12 years, 14 years, 15 years. If you're extraordinarily talented, 16, 17 years. Sunny Gavaskar played for 16 years. Kapil Dev played for 16 years. And Saurav also, if you take his in as 1991, when he went to Australia, played just one game and till the time he retired. So 17 years was his in and out. See, there's also insecurity because when you're young and you're flamboyant, the mind doesn't have any fear. Look at Dhoni. Dhoni, when he initially came in, he was fearless. But gradually, as you age, you become more mature. Once you become mature, you start thinking as well. I'm not saying when you're young, you don't think. But then you got that fear out of the mind. But once you mature with age, there's this sense of fear which gulps you. And when a sports person knows that his time may be up, not necessarily it is up, but when he knows that his time may be up, then that is when insecurity comes in. That is when he doesn't trust too many people. That is when he knows that he's as good or as bad as his last inning. Saurav, I think, as a captain, was doing tremendous. That was his pinnacle, actually. India went to Australia, drew the series 1-1. They went to Pakistan, they beat Pakistan. And they were winning, they were winning, they were winning. But Saurav got so consumed by the captaincy that his batting was suffering. And that was also a time when Yuvraj Singh was knocking at the test doors. He was playing one day, but he also was good enough to play test cricket. Now, you had Rahul at number 3, you had Sachin at number 4, you had Lakshman at 6 or 5, and then Dada. So once Dada wasn't scoring runs, that is when he felt the pressure. I still believe that as a captain, he was at his peak when he was sacked, but as a batsman, his form definitely was dipping. The entire world turned against him because you had Greg Chappell as the coach, so he would influence journalists. You had Rahul Dravid as captain, who would openly not side with Saurav ever. Then you had the selectors, and then the BCCI, because Saurav was always very headstrong. And when Saurav's captaincy was taken away, when he was dropped, obviously the media sided with him. And this is what the management never liked. But fortunately, I not that I mattered, but I was one of those very fortunate ones who sort of trusted, a very close set of 4 or 5 people. And I was among those ones. And I kept egging him. I saw him struggle. Ujjwal, when you want something very badly, you work towards it. There are times when you get things easily on a platter, but there are times when you have to ride the tide. You've got to go against the tide. And Saurav would go to Siliguri to play a Ranji Trophy game. He went to Chandigarh to play club cricket. And that is when he made his comeback. So Saurav, I think to me also epitomized the never say die attitude. And, I was very proud of the fact that those days, I was among the ones that Saurav trusted.
Yeah. Okay. And one more question in this segment, sir. You've covered, if I'm not wrong, you've covered 5 Cricket World Cups, right?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah. So in all of these Cricket World Cups, sir, there are high tension games, there are World Cup finals, there are matches between India and Pakistan that, being a nation like India, which is very high on sentiment, especially when it comes to cricket, does it become difficult as a sports journalist? Do you have to think about things you say in such matches? Is there some sort of Lakshman Rekha that you have to draw while making comments?
See, Ujjwal, times are changing now.
Yeah.
Times are changing. The goalpost has moved. There is nothing called a Lakshman Rekha now. I mean, look at the way this Indo-China thing is being covered. Yeah. We hear on TV that India should take on China without realizing the implications of it. So similarly, we live in a jingoistic world. If it's India-Pakistan, and the media would tom-tom about India's record against Pakistan. So we would not give Pakistan any chance. Before the game, the media would pronounce India as winners. I don't think whatever that you might say, especially in television, it is very difficult to separate the reporter from a fan. When I started off as a print journalist, we were taught never to write our team. So we would always say Indian team, but in television, there is nothing called Indian team. It is always we versus them. So, my first World Cup for television was the 2003 in South Africa. And I saw when India lost to Australia in the league game in Centurion, 125 all out. And the way in India, people reacted, they were throwing stones at the houses of the players. And the players were, they were shell-shocked in South Africa. Then they started winning. And I think that Pakistan game was the trigger point for them when they beat them in Centurion. I was there. And during the lunch break, in those days, 270 odd was a very good total. And I thought maybe the game will be Pakistan's. But when India won, and from there on, it became a campaign. And journalists, they do feel being part of that campaign.
Yeah.
The paradox was the 2007 World Cup in West Indies. We lost the first game to Bangladesh. We could never imagine losing to Bangladesh in the first game itself. Then we beat Bermuda and we lost to Sri Lanka, where we could not chase some 240 odd.
Yeah.
India were out of the World Cup within the first 7 days. So, that again, as a journalist or as a fan, you will get affected. As a journalist, because the World Cup just ended for all of us. I stayed on. I was there throughout the World Cup. But again, the kind of coverage that we had planned on Aaj Tak, we could not execute because India were already out of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And as a fan, it was like death. Bob Woolmer had died. India were out. It was the most depressing 4-5 days I would have spent on a tour. Similarly, there have been many ups and downs. There would be occasions when India would travel overseas, beat the other team. Hypothetically, when they beat Australia in Perth, my chest would swell with pride. So you can never keep yourself aside of the momentum that the fan is feeling. Last year in Manchester, when India lost the semi-final on the second morning, I could never come out of it. And I'm sure when I came back to India, I found my family, my friends, my colleagues, and everybody on the street. They just went into depression. So, like I said, journalists, they have to be part of that. Because when I said that you've got to feel the pulse of the people. So the pulse of the people is the fan.
Yeah.
If the fan has emotions and you don't feel them, how would you report?
Exactly. Quite a point, sir. Moving to our second segment, sir, this is your opinion on certain things about Indian cricket. So I have a segment of my blog where people ask questions that they would want to put directly forward to people like you, right? So the first everlasting question for years, for the last year specifically, has been that since we might not have the IPL this year, and IPL was supposed to be where we see Mahendra Singh Dhoni return, do you see him coming back to the Indian team now?
No chance.
No chance.
See, you will still have the IPL this year, but you won't have the World T20 this year.
Yeah.
So anybody and everybody who'd been talking about Dhoni flying in at the last minute and playing in the T20 World Cup, again, the T20 World Cup will be postponed by 12 months. You will still have the IPL this year. You'll have the IPL in October. But I have never been the one to buy this theory that Mahendra Singh Dhoni is resting at home and he'll just come play in the IPL and be included for the World T20. That was never going to happen. I think he's played his last game. He knows it. The team knows it. And I think the powers that be also know it. Me, you don't matter. Yes, he's not announced it publicly, but his contention is, why should I announce my retirement just because the media or the fans are asking for it? Right or wrong, I don't know. I think when you are a public figure, hugely popular as Dhoni is, and if there is a debate around him, I still feel that he should have taken a call. He should have at least said that I want to play. He never said I want to play. He never said I'm not going to play. But my assumption is, and I can tell you with certainty, that Mahendra Singh Dhoni has played his last game for India, and that was the World Cup semi-final.
Okay. Now, sir, since you say that MSD will not come back to this Indian team, we obviously need to have a potential replacement for him. And somebody who comes into mind is Rishabh Pant, who has a lot of talent. There is no doubt over it, but he has failed to fire in the international arena. So do you think Rishabh Pant is a likely like-to-like replacement, or there should be someone else, say KL Rahul?
Ideally, should have been Rishabh Pant. Ideally, should have been Rishabh Pant. Somebody who has a Test century in England and
Yeah.
in Australia in adverse conditions should have been your poster boy. He was the poster boy, and I think he threw it away.
Yeah.
As you rightly said. But let me ask you, Ujjwal, do you think the team management has been fair to him? Is this the way that you groom a youngster? Is this how Saurav Ganguly groomed Mahendra Singh Dhoni? Dhoni was also rustic. He also failed. One big inning, one more big inning, but his keeping was never up to the mark. They still kept faith. Virat Kohli, he failed, but the
Yeah.
captain kept faith. The captain was Dhoni.
Yeah.
You've got Yuvraj Singh, you've got Sehwag, you've got Harbhajan Singh, so many others, even Saurav Ganguly.
Yeah.
So it is up to the management how to groom a player. You tell a player you're a champion, he becomes a champion. You put seeds of doubt into the minds of a player, he will never have that self-belief. That's my feeling. Now, sinned or sinning, I don't know if I entirely blame Rishabh Pant or do I blame the team management. I think it's a combination of the two. But his mental state is very confusing right now. I mean, if you ask me how's Rishabh Pant behaving or doing or believing in himself, he's not even half the player that he was 12 months ago. So I think for the World T20, they had planned KL Rahul as the like for like with
Yeah.
Dhoni. He could have opened the innings. He would have also kept wickets. And Rishabh Pant, to my mind, should have also played in the 11 as a batsman. So if you were to ask me about T20, I would play both Rishabh Pant and KL Rahul. One of them keeps. Maybe now that they had groomed KL Rahul for the job, it could be KL Rahul. But both you need to be very careful about. You've got to groom these youngsters. You've got to give them confidence.
Right.
And again, there lies the theory. Let's say you're grooming Rishabh Pant or you're grooming KL Rahul, and then you say Dhoni wants to play in the T20 World Cup. Let's take him. Would you be fair to the two? Would you
Right.
rather not go ahead? Because Sunil Gavaskar also, when he retired, then you needed him for the next 12 years. Sachin Tendulkar, when he retired, you still need him. But you
Yeah.
get him back. No. As I said, there's shelf life. And look at Dhoni. Dhoni, to be very honest, was struggling in the 50-50 format with his batting. He was not the Dhoni that we knew in the last 3 years. So if he was struggling in the 50-50 format, how would you expect in a 2020 format, which is getting younger, which is getting ruthless, which is getting fearless, that you would expect the same Dhoni? So you would much rather have fearless minds. And it's a young man's game. Look at how New Zealand, Australia, England play T20s. India doesn't do that. For India, for a long, long time, why we've not been able to do well in T20s is because T20 has always been an extension of the ODIs. It's the other way around. Look at the way the world is playing T20s. India need to do that.
Yeah.
So for that, they need to have separate young T20 specialists.
Right. Now moving to the last very quick rapid fire segment, you just have to say the first thing / the first name that comes into your head. To start with, you have been associated with the sport for more than 2 decades now. So the funniest thing on or off the field related to cricket that comes into your head.
I think in Zamamul, the way he carried himself, he's always poker faced. And I had the good fortune of interviewing him many times, hosting shows with him. You never knew if he was serious or he was joking. I think he had that poker face.
Okay. Then, sir, I will name 4 batsmen. You just have to pick, according to you, who will have the brightest future. So your options are Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, young upcoming talent from Rajasthan Royals, Riyan Parag, and Sanju Samson.
Without a doubt, Shubman Gill.
Shubman.
Because I have not seen him bat personally much. But, there's this word of mouth
Yeah.
which spreads. Whosoever I've spoken to, a young player or, an experienced player or an international player, you ask them about Shubman Gill, they talk about not just his skill, but his work ethics. So everybody just says that this guy has got a bright future because of his work ethics. Prithvi Shaw, I was very happy the way he started, but I think he just threw it away. And Prithvi Shaw is a little more flashy. Sanju Samson, I think, has missed the bus. Riyan Parag is too young for us to assume that he'll play for India anytime soon.
Okay. And the same question for 4 bowlers. We have Khalil Ahmed, Navdeep Saini, and Deepak Chahar, along with, again, a young talent, if we can put him in the same category, Ravi Bishnoi, who did really well at the Under-19 World Cup.
Navdeep Saini. Khalil again has played for India and could not use the opportunities much. Deepak Chahar, good limited overs cricketer, more so in 2020s, but he'll have his limitations. Navdeep Saini is the one that I'll go with.
Okay. And sir, my last question for you. It does not have a correct answer. It just has infinite opinions. The better limited over batsman, Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli?
Like you said, Virat has won many games and his record while chasing is extraordinary.
Yeah.
But Rohit Sharma is no less. I would just say that, the day Rohit picks as a special day, he scores big. Virat is your ATM machine. You put the card in, you'll get your money. Rohit is also for the purists. Rohit is as destructive a batsman as Virat is in limited overs cricket. But, you've got to be very careful with him in the first 10, 15 deliveries. Virat is more compact. So I would rather say that rather than going in with one, I'm thankful that we've got both of them playing for India.
Okay.
That's also tricky because the day both of them fail, you fail.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. That is it from my side. Anything you would like to convey to your fans or to me?
No. Thank you so much, Ujjwal. And I find you very bright. And I think being a youngster, you're also enterprising. I don't know if you would seriously pursue a career in sports journalism, but the essence would be, like I said, to read a lot.
Yeah.
Read a lot and ask yourself questions. If you can't ask other people, ask yourself, probe yourself. Also, if you can, study the history of cricket, Indian cricket, world cricket. I mean, as a cricket fan, you should know what Kerry Packer did, what the Bodyline series was all about. You should also know who Ken Barrington was, for example. You should also know why was South Africa thrown out of international sport or world cricket in the 70s. So if you know all these things, like Rajinder Goyalji died last night,
he died today,
tell me how many youngsters would know him.
Exactly.
So, the moment you say Rajinder Goyal, you should know who he was.
Yeah.
So if you prepare yourself like you would prepare for your education, just prepare yourself. Being a sports journalist, I'm sure you'll get there.
Thank you so much, sir. It means a lot coming from you.
Bye, Ujjwal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being here.